On the 25th of June 1950, North Korea invaded South Korea. The ensuing conflict dragged in both the United States and China, resulting in the deaths of several million people. It was the first hot war of the Cold War. Many Americans saw the invasion as a communist attack, orchestrated by Stalin. To communists in the Soviet Union, it was portrayed as a war against Western imperialists. But the truth is more complicated. On this note, today I'm going to discuss to what degree the Chinese and Soviets were involved in its outbreak. Korea was a colony of Japan when World War II ended. It had been so since 1910, when before that it was one unified kingdom going back 1,000 years. Korea's partition in 1945 was a result of the Soviets and Americans dividing the peninsula into occupation zones. The Japanese were gone for good, and there was an agreement that Korea would become one unified, independent state in the coming years. But that was not to be. Following the outbreak of the Cold War, neither the US nor USSR wanted to cede their now opposing allies. In 1948, they officially became two independent states. Symeon Rhee was the US-supported dictator, and in the north the Soviets' dictator was Kim Il-sung. Koreans on both sides of the divide were deeply unhappy with partition, and both sides wanted unification on their terms. Both sides prepared for war, as small skirmishes were breaking out constantly across the border. On the 25th of June, Kim Il-sung launched a full invasion of the South. But Kim Il-sung couldn't do this invasion by himself. The North were reliant on Soviet aid, as well as China's support. Also, Kim was not yet fully independent from the Soviets at this stage, and needed Stalin's consent to start a war that could drag in the two global superpowers. Initially, both the Soviets and Chinese were uninterested in supporting a war in Korea. In March 1949, Kim Il-sung traveled to Moscow to request support for an invasion of the South. But with so many US soldiers stationed there, and the civil war in China still ongoing, he was refused. China, for their part, were in no position to support Kim, even if they wanted to. But by 1950s, things had changed, with the communist victory in China and the US seemingly losing interest in the South. Stalin then agreed to support Kim's wish. On the 30th of January, the Soviets telegrammed their support to the North, and in March, Kim returned to Moscow. He told Stalin that the attack will be swift and the war will be won in 3 days. Guerrillas in the South have grown stronger, and a major uprising is expected. The war lasted 3 years, and there proved to be no major uprising in support of the North in the South. Symeon Rhee had by then literally killed the communist movement in the South. It's not clear why the Soviet Union changed their mind, but the US abandonment of the KMT in China may have played an important part. Perhaps they thought the Americans would abandon Rhee too. Another reason historians have suggested for the change of policy was the acquirement of nuclear weapons by the USSR in August 1949. They were now safe from a one-sided nuclear war against the United States. In May, Kim Il-sung also traveled to Beijing to gain their support for the invasion. Mao could not really refuse this request. Stalin had already said yes, and it would be difficult to challenge the Soviets. This was long before the Soviet-Sino split happened. More importantly, supporting the North's attempt at unification was a way of gaining influence in Korea again for China. To the Chinese, Korea was their younger brother, who had long been under their influence but not rule. They had lost this position to Japan in 1910, and now they had the chance to regain it. Furthermore, many Koreans had actually fought for the communists in China's civil war. Now they were asking the Chinese to return the favor. Mao agreed on the condition that he would not send troops unless the North was invaded by the South and its ally, the USA. China did not want American troops anywhere near its border. To the North's delight, Mao also allowed tens of thousands of Korean soldiers who had fought in China to return to their homelands. This massively strengthened North Korea's military by providing hardened veterans for the invasion. The war then was not a Soviet-led enterprise. The driving factor of the conflict was Korea's partition, which virtually all Koreans opposed. Both sides wanted unification. Kim was simply the first to attempt it through invasion. This invasion was only possible, however, with Stalin's support and later China's direct intervention. In turn, the South was only able to withstand the war because of the United States and the United Nations. The tragic case of Korea remains a warning against drawing borders through land without the people living there's consent. Thanks very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. You can find a Korean history playlist on my channel if you have any interest in the country and learning more. I'll see you next time.